Welcome
to Movie of the Year, the only podcast that has the science and the screaming to determine what the best movie is of any given year. I'm your host, Mike Gravagno, and this year is 1996. So chillax, unbreak my heart, and find your lobster. Before I introduce this week's panelists, know this. And listeners, I've heard your emails. I'll read this slower. This show is also a game, and points will be awarded for well-made arguments, cogent thoughts about the film, jokes, and anything else I gosh darn feel like awarding. The winner will be my best friend for a week and have gloating rights. And one of the two hacktivists who could become that are Greg.
Hey, it's me, Greg. I'm here, and I have my ghost with me. What is that exactly? Something. I'm sure.
It's definitely something. Say it a lot, and that'll make it seem like it's something.
My consciousness, maybe. My memories, probably.
And another model bot phrase from the movie we have is Ryan.
Hey, Mike, my name's Ryan. I like donuts, karate, and lipstick parties.
Well, you're getting a point for that. That's all very 1996, isn't it? We all remember how donut karates and lipstick parties were tearing up the charts.
People could not stop eating donuts in 96.
It sucks that was a full P-tier Griffith from the office, the studio that we're recording in. All three of those things are just spread out throughout the room.
Now, as we always do, let's get real and talk about Greg. Why do you hate our theme song so much that you felt you had to sing a new theme song, a sub-theme song?
Even though we had all just said we are about to start recording, I didn't hear any clap or anything, so I was just singing a little ditty.
Two behind the curtain. What's your history with Ghost in the Shell?
I was like sort of peripherally aware of it in 96, but like I had not seen it. And I was not really a fan of anime. But there's like iconic images from it, and I felt like I was aware of those.
Not a fan or not knowledgeable? It's not like you were anti-anime.
No, but not knowledgeable at all. Like, especially considering how into like comics and magic cards,
geek culture.
Yeah, it was a huge blind spot, and it continued to be a blind spot for a number of years. And then like maybe 10 years ago, I got into anime and I watched Ghost in the Shell, and I was really like blown away by parts of it and confused by other parts and left a little unsure. And since then, I've seen it many, many, many times. And now it's become like, I don't know, one of my favorite go-to properties to just like put on and just like zone out to.
I feel like when you're a big old nerd, like three dudes spending their Friday night recording a podcast,
for instance,
geeks,
this shit will chase you down. Eventually, and like that's sort of the feeling, the unspoken thing said about people who just recently got into D&D is that, they're always like, no, it's so fun. You don't understand. It's not like what you think it is. But no, eventually that fucking saber-tooth tiger will hunt you down.
One day I'm going to be watching Babylon 5 and I'm going to be like, man, the prophecies were true.
So that's a Cylon. I know that's a different property.
Yeah.
Do not write us, Paul.
I mean, all of a sudden Mike is just full... like everything is Doctor Who, references, and like because it just gets
the
you eventually.
Scarf that's a mile long. That's not even a recent Doctor. He's from the 70s. I don't watch that.
I think it already got.
That's the one he's going to get into. It's not the current seasons, but instead he's going to be on the classic Who. Head.
When they looked like the bad guys were just trash cans.
Yeah, literally. BBC 3 budget. It's not very high.
Singing Bob O'Reilly.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Was Ghost in the Shell present in your teenage wasteland?
Oh, so barely. I remember seeing posters at certain places, video stores, but a certain kind of video store, not Blockbuster.
Or like the theaters that would play Rocky Horror Picture Show, or like the Crude Animation Festival or whatever. They would also have this poster.
Spike and Mike Sick and Twisted Animation Fest?
That's the one I was thinking of.
Which Crude is such a bad acronym for that because none of the letters match. But
Crude.
It's
points for everybody.
Even McKenna. It's such a it's just always there. I would often get it confused with the phrase God in the Machine.
Yeah.
So I would say like, oh, that's real Deus Ex Machina, Ghost in the Shell. But I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what to expect. And when we watched Akira.
Akira.
Oh, okay. I could just say the R.
Akira.
For this show. That was like my first entry into any of this stuff, which makes Ghost in the Shell it definitely go down smoother. They are wildly different movies.
Yeah.
Like
They are
in every single way except for like Flipbook, like, you know, here's a cell, take a picture. Other than that, they are wildly different, but there is something about the storytelling that sort of whatever is first is going to not be great, you know?
Oh, speaking to my heart, Ryan. I too was the kind of geek. I think it's the same reason I didn't read space comics growing up. I was like, you have to draw boundaries. There's too much out there, and I know I don't have friends, and I don't do anything on the weekends. There's still too much.
Oh, yeah.
I don't read space comics. I don't watch anime. Get the fuck out of my face.
I don't read space comics. Like, are you Marty McFly's dad? Like,
So it's
when
like
were you born?
You're reading the X-Men, and then they're like, we have to go talk to the Shi'ar, and Mike's just like, I will catch you in a few
I'm
months.
going to go read the 3 issues of Fantastic Four where they're actually in New York.
I 100% back this up. Like, this is the same way that I lived.
Oh yeah, same here.
And remembering it now, because now there's you have access to even more, and you tap into the Marvel fucking app, and you're like, there's so much, and I'm like, just pick and choose, jump into the middle of a thing. You don't have to know anything.
Yeah,
it's the best. My nerd origin story is that I grabbed the Spider-Man from a 7-Eleven, and it was the middle of the Clone Saga. So if I can jump in and start that way, I can do anything.
Mike got bit by a radioactive Spider-Man comic, and now he is the super dork that he is today.
All that being said, I feel the same where like I'd watch some anime, didn't love it, assumed everything was like Dragon Ball Z, which was so boring. My stupid brothers loved that, and so stayed away from it for so long, and then did not love Akira, and I'm still fucking getting bullied for that years later as an adult from you people. And so saw some posters. Some of these scenes, even not having it, are like, I know there's not like Oscars for anime, but it feels like they're just, if you're going to see a movie montage of cool shit happening, you're going to get a couple of moments from Ghost in the Shell.
I would say nothing as like the red motorcycle.
Nothing
quite that big.
Yeah, there is some things that like I recognize. But Mike, I have been waiting all fucking week because I was not the biggest Akira fan. You were negative, which of course means he watched it with his wife.
With his wife.
That's such a weird. It's such a weird insult to me, to her, to our relationship and how we work.
But what did you think?
It was cool.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, this is gonna sound like damning with faint praise, but the whole time I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I think it is the older we get, and man, am I shaving more parts of my head to cut out the gray. Anytime you hear something is like foundational and changed everything, like the bigger the buildup, and you watch it and you're like, all right,
yeah,
no, I could see that. Like, and so I liked it.
Yeah,
I didn't hate it like Akira, but I'm not like, oh my god.
But because we're on a podcast and how podcasts work, you fucking hated it, and you will burn.
I fucking
anyone
hated
to
it.
death.
Oh, I'm only being real right now. The rest of the show, my emotions will be fucking amped up to 11, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding?
I do think we should say off the top, it's very the most common version of this. In fact, like the only version you can buy, I think, is the dub. Did you guys do the dub or did you do the subtitles?
I did the dub, Greg, and I watched every second of it.
Yeah.
If you get it on Apple, if you rent it or buy it from Apple, you can go into the settings and choose which version.
Oh, you can? See, because
I watched it with Japanese and then English subs.
Nice.
I thought you were going to say Japanese subtitles.
Because I do have to say, I know that like some people, I don't have anything against dubs, but I have to say, the one that is like the most common soundtrack you hear for this movie, the acting from the principal characters mostly is so bad that they seem confused by like what they're saying sometimes.
They're cold reading all of it?
Yes.
Well, that's what,
don't
get
literally
the
in a
dub all
freezer.
stars to act in your movie.
But like when Disney partnered with Ghibli and they re-released everything with like Dakota Fanning as the voice of everything, of
everything.
Yeah.
That was too much.
Totoro.
Come on, Dakota. She's great. But can she do that?
That was such a different thing than this, which was like in 96 or whatever, or whenever. I think this is a 95 movie. We should explain that everyone thinks of it as a 95 movie, but it was released here in 96. So we put it in the bracket.
We
Those
have
are
to
our
have
rules.
rules. It's all that separates us from the animal podcasts.
or the ones that fucking tech would make. That like the actors that they got, no offense to them or their families, are fucking terrible. This is like the lowest budget Saturday morning cartoon.
They're bad actors and they
Voiceover.
sound like stupid people. It sounds honestly, I do have to say it again, no offense to them, no offense to their families, but like they sound
I
like
think there's some offense.
not strong readers.
Wait, if Greg just comes up with our new podcast tagline, shouldn't we take a minute?
Yeah. I will say, so even though Apple gives you that option, it does want you to auto starts in English every time.
Yeah.
And I paused, and when I went back, it auto started in English, and I did have that moment of like, I know Japanese now.
Yes.
But also, I was just like, for 2 scenes, I was like, this movie is way dumber than I remember it being just earlier today. And then I was like, wait, I understand everything that's happening.
Yeah, it's just there are especially like a couple of like philosophical parts that I'm sure we'll get into, but like when the movie begins to examine philosophy, the actors just sound absolutely lost.
Just stoned freshmen. What if like God's in all of us?
That would have been better if the cast of like a Richard Linklater movie played all of these parts. What are even guns? Usually I save this for the middle of the show, but I read Roger Ebert's review, of course.
Nice.
Which he did say at some point, and then a very shapely robot.
Of course.
Like, Ebert's got it, Ebert.
Oh, he's gonna talk about the Valley of the Body of the Dolls.
A bosomy soldier.
But the last sentence of his review is where I'm at, which I think is about where Mike is. And it's just, he writes his whole review, and then he says, but I enjoyed its visuals, its evocative soundtrack, and its ideas. And just maybe not willing to put it on the shelf everyone else has, but definitely did not have a bad time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right. It's too much hemming and hawing. Ryan's already in the middle of the show in his mind. We got to take the quickest of breaks and just actually start digging into this thing. Taste buds, we are diving into Ghost in the Shell, a.k.a. God in the Machine. Ryan's not the only one who confuses those phrases. The cyberpunk classic that hacked its way into anime history and influenced the likes of the Wachowskis, James Cameron, and Steven Spielberg. Heard of them? Directed by Mamoru Oshii and based on the manga tackling identity, consciousness, and the merging of man and machine, its groundbreaking visuals combine traditional cell animation with early CGI, creating an immersive world that would inspire filmmakers for years. Taste buds, plug in and hack this. Ghost in the Shell isn't exactly the Western style of storytelling that we're used to. Do the long philosophical conversations with almost no movement, interspersed with montages and action set pieces, elevate the film into something great? Or is it just challenging for the sake of being challenging?
Let me start on this one, Greg, before you cook.
Jump in, right?
Before we get Greg pilled. Before the Greg of it all. I found this movie really challenging to get through because of what Mike is talking about. And so excited to do this show with you guys.
Yeah.
And it's not like so we can, jizz all over it and say it's the best or the worst. I wanted to hack it out with you guys instead of be watching the movies in a lot of the parts. And I really came to the conclusion too that it would be so much better when I watch it again because I know what to expect, but there's no way I want to watch this again.
Oh, really?
Now that it's so I could see this as a background movie and notice new things, but like I'm not ready to dig back in because of just it really does feel like one of those in parts motion comic books of like I really am just listening to a podcast with a frame so often.
Did you feel like the movie expected you to have read the comic already and that it ever relied on that like knowledge of the comic already?
Maybe, but and Ryan's boy Ebert said this. He was like, I had no idea what was going on until like an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
But like,
and that's
sci-fi has taught me you're going to be confused. Just be in this world and vibe, baby. Like it did. And Cyberpunk is like this way a lot. It reminded me of Blade Runner. We're like, I don't fucking know what's going on.
Yeah.
And partway through, you're like, all right, I'm piecing it together. So it's not like minute one, I was like, I understand what's happening.
Yeah.
I never expected to because you're watching a cyberpunk anime.
For the sci-fi thing is there, the cyberpunk thing is there, but also it reminded me of a Mission Impossible type movie where I do just sort of check out. I don't want to, I don't mean to, but I check out for the first 10 minutes when it's just bureaucrats talking about who this person is, and it does doom you in certain points. Like I just had to go on Wikipedia and read the plot synopsis after I was done with it.
That's what was going on.
Yeah, and so but it didn't seem like it was introducing new things. Like I should have read the comic. Like this is a sequel to a comic book that I didn't read.
Yeah.
It was just it hit you with a lot fast.
It hit you with a lot fast, and I guess the only like what a comic might have helped is like our main trio, the major cyborg guys and normal cop. They go on a lot of adventures, and you know their rhythms and their relationships better than this movie is. But I liked that.
No, you want
like it does remind me like the way people talk about OG Star Wars is like back then they just say the Clone Wars, and you're like, oh fuck, what's the Clone Wars? Who cares? Move on. And it does feel a modern thing of like I should know everything to make this good.
I think that you don't have to have read the comic to answer my own question. You don't have to have read the comic to understand this movie, and I don't think you have to, as when it's over, go read the Wikipedia. But I do think you have to watch the movie several times to understand what's going on in it. And I don't know if that's fair of the movie. I do have to say a lot of the more complicated movies we watch, I don't get them on the first pass necessarily. It's watching them again, especially because like something that they do, I think, very effectively in this movie is they talk about the philosophical implications of all this technology, but since everybody in the world knows what the technology is, they don't spend time explaining to each other things they already would know.
I loved that.
Yeah, and so that makes it feel very real because nobody is saying like, well, as you know, we are all like they assume that everybody understands what a ghost is. They assume because that's what it would be like to be in that world.
Yeah, it's funny how they don't explain their past, but they do dictate our future. That's quite a skill.
It made me think of like even shows I love, but shows that are about groups of friends who it'll be 6 best friends for years, and they'll be like, do you remember that time that Jane did this 10 years ago? And they're like, yes, I was also there. Then she did this. And they're like, who the fuck? You guys would take me to the hospital if I started saying that to you.
Yeah, or you'll be like, well, as you know, Dad, you have that big interview coming up for the position. And it's like, it's so artificial, but it does help us out. And that's a way in which I don't know if it's a cultural difference, but that's a way in which this movie is different. It's not going to hold your hand at all. And so for the first half of the movie, you're totally lost. And then when you get caught up towards the end, then you are prepared to understand the beginning. Like if you do watch the movie over again now, like a lot of it will be much more clear.
Or even just the first half. Like when you come into a movie theater halfway through the movie and then you sit and you watch that part that you missed.
Yes.
We essentially missed the first half.
Yeah.
Kind of. And so it makes sense to like the third act and the end of the second, I get, right? Battle, a tank in a building. But that first half, knowing what I know about the second half, probably would be way more sense.
Maybe it's like I assumed like my mood was very different because I did this in 2 episodes on 2 different days, and so but maybe I just had to prime myself with that first watch and doing exactly what you said. So I knew what to expect on episode 2 of Ghost in the Shell, so I was like, fuck yeah, this movie now.
Real question, be honest, was it hard to hit play on day 2?
It wasn't hard to hit play. I just had to prep myself. I was like, put your phone. I know that's where you take notes. Put it far away because you do not know Japanese.
Sorry, bud. Sorry you had to find out that way.
That is I think subtitles, I think subs are better than dubs, but I think the biggest reason is that you can't have your phone in your hand. And like that really helps you watch a movie when you're not second screening.
I do have to say one thing I like about dubs that it's unfortunate that this is such a bad dub. One thing I do like is, this is a visually dense movie. And when your eyes are flicking down constantly and like you have to read a line but you can't look away just because you have read the line. You have to check back in to make sure that it hasn't scrolled to the next one. So that's another reason why you have to watch it over and over again is I watched this movie 4 times just this week. On the 4th viewing, I was still being shocked by things I had not noticed before. Even if it was just like cuts in like the interstitial city scenes, I'd be like, I never noticed that sign before. And it's because your eyes are darting around like crazy. Yeah. And it's hard for you to really see like what is obviously a very every shot an intricate contraption in this. Like they spent a lot of time on all of it. And it's a little bit of a shame to have to be looking at just like 20% of the screen so much.
I also think that sort of speaks to me and Mike's position of how going in knowing how revolutionary this was. is the eyes are darting around not just to catch all the animation, but like why?
Am I being revolutionized right now?
Right.
Yeah. And that's not fair, but we don't have a choice.
But like, there must be like, I mean, the first time I watched this, there were so many things I was blown away by, both like big and small. But like, shout out to that, like when she's invisible and fights that guy in the water.
Dude.
In like the, I mean, I had never. That's not like, I felt like I had seen her invisible suit before, but I don't remember ever seeing that fight. And I don't even know what she's doing in that fight, but she's twisting that guy up like a pretzel, and it is fucking rad.
That's a great hack. Is it looks cool. You know, you're revolutionizing animation by doing this technique, but also you don't have to think about the actual choreography. You just get to do whatever you want.
You only have to draw half as much. Yeah.
We're taking the afternoon off, boys. We made the main character invisible. And hey, she's gonna fight a tank at the end, but check it out. The tank, it's invisible.
And kind of looks like a spider.
Yeah, I mean, those are two scary things. The second I turned on this movie, I texted both of you. Oh, okay, is this The Matrix? And then watching it more, I started thinking about Blade Runner, and it's really hard to give Matrix shit if you're not going to give Ghost in the Shell shit about Blade Runner, and that's the case with all pop culture ever. So there's no reason to really dive into that hole. But yeah, to me, what Blade Runner offers is just less explanation of its philosophies, even though there are multiple conversations in Blade Runner of here is what this movie, this director, this screenwriter, these actors are thinking right now. I feel like sometimes it really drags this movie down for where, like, if I'm confused, I'm not compelled.
Yeah.
And then also I'm trying to figure out what the director is thinking while I'm trying to figure out what the actors or characters are thinking. It is tough sometimes.
It's tough in the moment, though, right? It's tough. See, this is this movie gives you two different experiences. There's the experience when you're watching the movie live, and I guess all art has this, and then there's the experience that stays with you, right? But I think that the very dense, like, philosophical treatises that take place several times over this movie, they drag a little bit when you're watching them. But I swear, like, I do return to like the thoughts and the ideas in this, especially now when like we are on what feels like the precipice of either discovering generalized artificial intelligence or discovering that we can't quite do it yet. Like
it's that one.
Yeah, it feels.
I think it's that one.
It feels
it's all
to
bullshit.
me. It feels a lot more like the second. To me, it feels very much like smoke and mirrors, and not that. But all the implications that were raised in this movie are very much raised in our current pursuit. Are we sure we even want to make generalized artificial intelligence? Are we morally capable of doing that? Like, then what? We own it? We designed you things, so now we own you. And this movie is asking all those questions, and you carry those questions with you, I guess.
But I will say to agree with what Ryan's saying, in Blade Runner, they're doing in the scenes, like, because they're doing are you a test, are you a robot, are you human test, they're not, what does it mean to be human? I'm going to float in a pool now and just think aloud for a while what this could be. And that to me is, I remember moments of Akira being that, and it's just like, this feels like, and I know I'm out of my depth, but the scant anime I've seen, it does feel like, well, we have to have somebody monologue for a while about what they're going through.
Well, is that,
and it's just of the time or of the genre? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if that's anime or if that's the problem with adaptation, where when you're adapting something, all of these thoughts are in the written word, even if there are pictures in there that you. One of the scenes I want to point out that, like, there's the scene on the boat where there's so much philosophizing going on.
It would be the most egregious version. Like, if this would be like the best example of what we're talking about, right? When she's diving and she comes up and they almost instantly start having a deeply philosophical conversation.
Yeah, and I want to get into that scene more because I do think that with its faults, it has greatness to it. But a scene that is a little bit more movie-like, I would say, although I wasn't totally in the wavelength of the movie yet, is earlier on where Motoko is talking to her all-human partner about his old-fashioned revolver. And he's like, nope, nothing beats my revolver, trusty old revolver. And she's like, well, there's been a lot of advancement in weapons, bro. And they are talking like to cops. Yeah. And it's especially once you get to the end of the movie, it's very obvious what they were talking about. But it isn't just straight up lecturing about this philosophy of is it better to be an OG and be natural, or is it better to have advancements and then take the disadvantagements that come with that? That's kind of those are the scenes that in my memory now, having watched the movie, sing a little bit more.
How about in terms of being a little bit slow? So there's the philosophical slowdowns, right? The part that I respond to extremely personally, but I wonder if other people like, which is kind of a weird feeling to have, is the like interstitial, like the water it slowly begins to rain on the city, and then the music comes up, and like we're like watching the boats go down the channels, and then we're watching people walk through the stalls. Was that stuff slow or boring, or did you kind of like the vibe of that?
I vibed on that.
Yeah.
And that was what Cyberpunk does. All of it gets wrong about the future is they think it's going to be very wet. From the Blade Runner movies to this, they're like, you're just always going to be sort of soaked.
There will be no water.
I think that
dry as shit.
I think that originally comes from The Big Sleep. I think that comes from the noir book and movie The Big Sleep that shows in LA that's raining constantly. And since Cyberpunk takes so heavily from noir influences, I'm sure there's more than just that, but I've always kind of thought that's the original seed of the rainy times in Cyberpunk.
I think that, Greg, you sort of just hit on one of my prejudices here of, like I really respect animation, and I think that it is equal to, it's a art form as great as live action movies. But I wonder if I got so bored during these scenes because not only was I totally in like understanding what the story was going on when it happened, and it's about the midpoint. Like I was confused for a long time, but also I'm not seeing the real thing. And so there was this thing of like, these are just drawings, right? And that feels terrible to say because there's so much about animation that I love. But if we're talking about, say, Studio Ghibli movie, I get to watch it all with a ton of story at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a very purposeful choice of whether it's like because of the director or Motoko's. I mean, this is her through her eyes, right?
Very much so. Yeah. Like, I mean, I think that she begins to have a crisis she has had an identity crisis because of the case that they're working on, which is like then becomes part of why she gets drawn into the case is because she's having this identity crisis. But yeah, like it's very much the movie changes with her mood. Yeah.
And I mean, like I have now covered both of your asses by saying the thing that will get the most negative comments about this episode about that animated
These are just
thing.
drawings. But it's interesting to point out because I think animators love to flex with what they can do with liquid.
Yes.
Whether it's from Bambi, the drip, drip, drop, little drops of flour. They're like, look at the fire shit I just drew. To Prince of Egypt in the 90s, to the liquid metal in T2. Animators love to be like, we could do water now, bitches.
Yeah. And the movie is absolutely...
So I think this was a flex.
Yeah. And philosophically, I think the movie is obsessed with water a little bit too. But yeah, that's the very reinforcing, right? That it's also lets them highlight their like sort of abilities.
But like that 10-minute scene, I don't know how much of an exaggeration that is, of every corner of Tokyo. That's the one that I was like, wow.
I'll say I appreciated that 10-minute scene more than Morpheus's 10-minute scene of explaining everything and how the Matrix works and the history of the Matrix. If we're talking about things that this movie reminded me of that it begat.
You mean the scene where Christopher Nolan directed the Matrix for just one scene?
We need to take the quick breaks, and when we come back, build a little mountain.
Mount Rushmore!
Mount Rushmore. The ode to the 4 least problematic presidents in this used to be great nation's history.
We're pretty great. I've heard that vintage clothes now are called, instead of vintage or used, they're called pre-loved.
Pre-loved.
And I think we could say that about America.
This is a pre-loved country.
I heard that that in Europe they've started to refer to the time they live in as the pre-war time. Yeah, it's a good time to be alive, everybody. So do it while you can.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always in the pre-war time. I don't read the news. I don't know if there's wars going on. Today we are building a Mount Rushmore to not the least complicated anything, or what to say, least problematic anything. We're building. It's the hottest girls of 1996. It's what the fans asked for. It's what the fans love. We did Hot Boys a few weeks ago. few months ago, but now it's about the ladies.
Also, we tried to ditch this segment. People were like, please bring it back. We were like,
Yeah.
is it problematic? And they were like, absolutely not.
And I was like, okay, I guess I'll think of some attractive women from the time I was 15.
I guess I'll go to Google Hill
I don't
and
know.
not do anything different.
Yeah, dude. I did not even have to like head over to Google Hill. I just accessed my 16-year-old brain, and he shot out a lot of names.
Shot out a lot of
Shot out a lot of
Shot
names.
out a lot of
Ryan.
something.
Shot out a
Without
lot
the
of
help,
names.
for the
Ryan.
first time in decades, without the help of technological. All right, let's keep being gross.
Oh my god, literal decades.
We saved this. We saved this for a guestless pod for a reason. Let's start with you, Greg.
Okay, I have to be absolutely true to 1996, Greg. And
Greg's mom.
I'm reaching out to you in the past, Greg. This is the year of Stealing Beauty, the year of Empire Records, the year of That Thing You Do. This is the fucking year of Liv Tyler. This was the year where I was like, I don't want to miss a thing. Actually, it wasn't that year. I was crying when I met her, and now I am not trying to forget her, okay? She was first the Aerosmith girl as Steven Tyler's way of saying, sorry that I didn't raise you. You can be hot and mince around in my music videos with Alicia Silverstone.
Also, Steven Tyler's way of saying, oh, you're hot now because you're 15. And that's how I like it.
It turns out. Yeah, it turns out. But wow, I was so blown away. I was like, one day I hope I have my own magical brown-haired girlfriend who makes everything worthwhile. And guess what, 16-year-old Greg? You did it, buddy. You got there.
I was in Vegas last weekend, and I looked at the Movie of the Year award, like how you can gamble on them.
Yeah.
in Caesar's
Which we
Palace.
discourage if you're not using the Movie of the Year bet app.
Well, don't drive to Vegas for it. You can do it on the app. And
Yeah,
it's like,
available anywhere Ryan can get to download it onto your device.
of course, gambling is illegal in 42 states, and call us if you have a gambling problem, and we'll be like, you don't.
It's a good idea
No,
in
you
50
don't.
states, though.
But it said that will Greg mention Liv Tyler on the Hot Girls Rushmore, and it was bet $1,000 to win $1.
And
1 to
you know
1,000, right?
Yep.
Liv Tyler is directly on that map.
Oh my god!
So, is that shocking, Ryan?
Mike, there are a lot of hot girls in this year.
There's so many hot girls in this year.
Only 3 more, I think.
The emailers told me that there's. I'm not saying that, but the emailer said.
All right, who do you think belongs on here ahead of Liv Tyler, Ryan?
Not ahead. I'm not saying that, but
Ryan thinks Liv Tyler's fugly. Oh my gosh!
To me, this year was all about somebody perfecting hotness, creating hotness, like redefining hotness. And to her, I would say that I am so sorry that I am not home right now. I am walking in a spider web.
This is my number 2 as well.
Leave a number and I will call you back. Gwen Stefani, everything about her, from her her fashion, her stomach, to the problematic gem on her forehead.
Yeah, she did that for a while.
Hey,
Yeah.
she'd be problematic this year in real life right now as well. Don't worry. She's always had some issues, folks.
In my head, she was a big Vision fan, and that was an Infinity Gem. But yeah, I just and like everything that was hot in that year was Gwen Stefani.
The way she looked, the way she sounded, the way she moved when they were on stage.
The way she told you to pick it up.
Pick it up, pick it up.
Gwen, of course, is right on this mountain. We're also
I
all from
told
Orange
you,
County.
Mike, you're freaking out. You are too much control.
We got to bring the heavy hitters here. We can't mess around anymore.
Wait,
Ryan.
you both got stuff on and you're upset. This is
No, I
crazy.
know, 'cause it's
What a
scary.
year.
It's scary. You don't want to throw out now like a liner.
No.
Yeah, you got to play to Mike too, I think.
Well, even if you threw out a liner, it's probably going right on the mountain with this guy.
I don't know what a liner is, so
Somebody
I
right on
refuse
the
to
line.
accept it. Greg.
Back to me. Okay. I'm still in the top tier of my lists here. Starred in a little movie called Scream. Starred in a little movie I could never forget called The Craft. Was on a TV show called Party of Five. This was the time of Neve Campbell, and she was America's sweetheart. Not to the Liv Tyler's standards necessarily, but another absolute.
Oh, comparing women.
That's not what we're here to do in this segment.
I would never do that. I would never engage in anything like that because I would hate to meet Neve Campbell and have to tell her I did that.
Ryan, who you got for the maybe pile?
Mike, Google Hill presented me with such a incredible warm memory this week.
I didn't like the warm part, right?
Yeah,
it was piss.
Gross.
It's just piss.
It's not gross. It's piss.
When I nominate somebody for Mount Rushmore, especially when it's of the hot girl and hot boy variety, I want to make sure that I'm picking their 1 year. Some people are hot for a decade or more, which sounds crazy to me because I only had that 1 week in the late 80s.
It was a great week.
Do you guys remember that week?
Oh, man. You got those sunglasses?
But I think that this person has to be nominated, and part of it is because this thing that I forgot from 1996 is covers of the Rolling Stone.
Wow.
Do you guys remember how important this was?
Oh, yeah.
I looked up covers of the Rolling Stone of 1996, and every single one was iconic. Every one I remembered, from Conan's big pompadour to the Seinfeld as Wizard of Oz characters. Like this was a thing where magazine covers, particularly Rolling Stone, was important. But no cover of the Rolling Stone was more important than Jennifer Aniston laying on a bed naked, and her butt was on the cover.
You could see her butt on the cover.
You could see her butt. And I know that Jennifer Aniston could be many years in this game, but I think that this cover was it.
Yeah, that's when she went from like the cute girl next door
Yes.
to like, oh no, she got a butt. And we saw it.
She has a human butt. I don't think you can underestimate how big magazines were in 96. And I mean that almost literally.
Yeah.
Like they were huge.
They were floppy.
Yeah.
You could protect your head from CGI rain falling down upon it.
Just like that Wu-Tang song. Also, I noticed while looking at the covers that Rolling Stone is a weekly, but every issue said double issue. So this was the point where they were like, weekly's a lot, right,
That's
guys?
so much weekly. How about bi-weekly?
I hate to do it. Jen's on the mountain.
Oh, my goodness, Mike.
Is that 3? Do we still have some more?
There's some more. We could speed round it a little because you guys decided to really take your time with a lot of storytelling so far.
It's our
So,
fault.
Greg.
Again, it could be a lot of years, but this year definitely Salma Hayek was in From Dusk Till Dawn. She was dancing.
Was that the movie where she put her foot in Quentin Tarantino's mouth in the movie that he wrote?
She sure did.
She ad-libbed that and awoken something in her.
She danced around and she looked very hot.
Ryan?
I know that it's weird to talk about this 2024, 2025 hip actress in this way, but Demi Moore in 1996, I really don't remember if this was even considered in the bracket, but a movie in 96 called Striptease was such a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And she showed off her Demi more than she usually did in other movies.
And let's say she had the right substance. I'm not sure that tracks, actually, Ryan.
It's fine.
Continue.
No. I'll just say that Ryan got a point. Greg did not for that exchange right there.
But yeah, absolute smoke show for decades now. Her only mishap, marrying a piece of shit prankster.
Dax Shepard? No,
No.
Ashton Kutcher.
It was Ashton
Ashton Kutcher.
There's so many pieces of shit pranksters. Greg?
The movie Bound came out, so everybody just has to ask themselves, are you a Jennifer Tilly person or a Gina Gershon person? I will say I'm a Jennifer Tilly person.
Or a Joey Pants person.
Or a Jelly Pants person.
My hot girl
Ryan?
is Jennifer Jelly Pants.
And it's Joey Pants in a wig?
Yeah. His pants are full of jelly. I hate to say this person, despite my feelings towards her in 96, they have much changed now, but it is hard to deny the absolute blonde magnetism of one Jennifer McCarthy.
Jenny McCarthy, I think, is in 96 is how everybody was saying it.
Because of Goat Boy?
Because of Goat Boy. Greg.
Not so much from That Thing You Do, but from a movie that didn't make our bracket, 2 Days in the Valley, Charlize Theron. Again, you could have a couple decades there, but this was the year she was in 2 Days in the Valley.
I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of years it could be Charlize. 1996 is not Charlize's year. If we're talking
Have you
about
seen
iconoclast.
2 Days in the Valley.
Have you seen 2 Days in the Valley?
No, I bet she's super hot, but we're also, this is like...
So you're not really in the
iconography.
position to judge. No, that's okay. That's cool. That's cool. That's good.
It's weird.
You
how
just
many
don't. You
points
just don't
wanna
know.
give to
You
Ryan.
have an opinion, just not an educated one. No, it's okay.
Is she
that's fine.
iconic in 1996?
It's a podcast, Mike. You don't have to know something to say something. I get it.
Greg
Is she
really does not
iconic?
want to bring muffins to Mike's house this week.
It's crazy. Ryan.
Party of Five spawned more than just Nev Campbell. I know that she's about to take off, but Jennifer Love Hewitt. You got to love a Hewitt. And also her name's Jennifer, which I think everybody on the mountain should be named that.
You just get one more.
From Twister. Excuse me. Oh my God.
The prequel.
Helen Hunt. Leave your stupid wife. Go to Helen Hunt.
Ryan.
This one is, I don't know. I didn't really get that. No, I don't want to say that. I'll just say that somebody who everybody was fanboying over was one Gillian Anderson from The X-Files. She's a ginger, and that was like, weird to me.
1996. Here, I'm just going to run down the maybe pile right now, because currently on the mountains Liv Tyler, Gwen Stefani, and Jen Aniston. On the maybe pile is Nev Campbell, Selma Hayek, Demi Moore, Jennifer Tilly, Jenny McCarthy, Charlize Theron, JLH, Helen Hunt, and Gillian Anderson. Your mountain is Liv. It's Gwen, it's Jen, and it's Gillian. 1996, baby. Even though he said it and I didn't get it, I don't want to give him the point, but he is the one who suggested it. Let's take the quick breaks, and when we come back, more Ghost in the Shell. Taste buds. Major Motoko can't stop being angsty about her sense of self, despite Batu being all like, stop being so angsty. What are we to take away from the movie as far as identity and consciousness go?
Well, Mike, this cartoon was good, but here we go, right? Maybe I should just let Greg actually kick this one off.
Well, I think primarily the question that's asked about identity is what are we in relation to our memory and what is memory? So how are we formed as current, like modern people? We stand like kind of on the top of all of our memories that we've experienced, right? But like what are those memories and how are we really related to them? And especially in this world where it's like information that can get like added to or erased or simulated. The idea that like they give the garbage truck hacker guy, they give him like a fake kid and ex-wife that he's like, or wife that he's currently like breaking up with and beefing with.
Not even just like a happy home, but like a home that's breaking apart that is still fake.
So yeah, so because the cover story they give him is not that he's going around doing good things from place to place. This cover story that the puppet master gives him is that he's going from place to place hacking his wife because he's upset with her about the fact that they're getting a divorce. And then when that disappears, they're like, when they disabuse him of the notion that he has a daughter, they're like, no, you're a bachelor, you got reprogrammed. He's like, well, am I going to get my other memories back? And they're like, yeah, we can't do that yet. And
like a lost podcast.
Yeah, it's just gone forever.
His pad where he really lives is the most bachelor pad of all time.
Yeah.
And when I say, I don't mean like, neon beer signs and pinball machines. I mean like it obviously stinks of old laundry and pizza crust. Like it is so. This is the first scene of the movie where it's on a human instead of a philosophical level. It's on a human level of like, oh my god. And I think that we've seen this scene so many times since then. But I can't remember anything before this of like, no, your life is fake, bro. And that picture of it's just him doing it. Like, is he doing a selfie? It almost looks like.
It looked like it.
It has a real fisheye lens look to it because this is kind of a look that the movie goes to several times, this fisheye lens on somebody. I think it's supposed to be very disorienting. And so it looks like that, but it's almost like he's passing an ATM and the ATM takes a picture of him or something.
And the Basset Hound is there.
And the Basset Hound, of course, is there.
So props to that. But also the fact that, like, this is so messed up is that it's the same picture. It's just that his memories triggered something else to see when he looked at the picture beforehand.
Yeah.
And now in this interrogation with this new information, he looks at the exact same picture and he sees it now.
And it was so sad because they're like, what's that picture you show your coworker? And he's like, this one, which means that guy had to stare at a lonely guy. And he's just like, look at my great picture.
Every coworker's like, oh, Stan.
It's funny.
Doing good.
It's funny because after you know that and you watch that scene again, he does take out the picture and he tries to show it to the other guy. And the guy's like taking a nap. And he's like, I don't care about that stuff. Which, when you don't have kids, sometimes that is how
Yeah.
it feels. People are trying to jam pictures of the kids at you, and you're like, honestly, you can save that because that stuff
If your
doesn't-
kid's not getting hurt or saying "fuck," I don't want to see this.
If your kid's running around with a knife, I want to see that. That sounds like good content.
What's that? A knife? No.
If your kid's
The
7 or
best thing the
under,
internet
I
has
will look at
given
the
us.
picture. If your kid is 8 or older, they're I don't like. They're not cute anymore. Nobody.
Oh, you
needs
want
that
to?
shit.
You don't want to look at this kid's weird, fugly transition period.
But what a great device to have. Like, well, I don't need to look at it again, and the audience doesn't need to look at
Yeah.
it because this person just
Yeah.
assumes that it's real.
Yeah.
This person who doesn't want to
Yes.
look at it.
And I mean, isn't that the same thing that's really happening to the guy himself, but in a bigger way, right? Like, he looks at the picture, but he's not really looking at it because he assumes that he sees something in it. And
Yeah.
like, that's what we do all the time. Like, we filter out all these things that we don't like. It's what's so interesting about sci-fi is they always bring technology into it, but it always shines back on just the human experience. Our memories can't be hacked by some, outside force, but like, we could get a fever, or we could get a bonk on the head, or we could Phineas Gage have like a metal spike like shot through our brain, and it changes
Phineas
us
Gage,
fundamentally. It can eliminate our memories, and then if we don't have our memories, who are we? Like, if our memories make us who we are, how can they possibly be so fragile? How can we possibly be as like delicate, like the blossoms falling off a tree? Like, how can that be our existence? And then we still have to find purpose, and we still have to go out and face the world, even knowing that we could blow away in like 1 second.
I mean, this is like the reverberations of Eternal Sunshine. This is the dinosaur steps that you watch in the water of Eternal Sunshine, of like, you want to forget your love, but what are like the life-changing things that you're, because you're created from these memories, and how much do they matter? The other one is obviously Motoko, and I think that potential scene of the movie is 2 seconds of her on a boat in like a canal and seeing a different model of her in a window, and just being like, you know what, maybe I am okay. Oh my God, there's my face. I am nothing. And I think it's so important in this movie that any other American movie, let's say, would do it differently. People would just like treat her behind the scenes or around the corner or like on the sides as shit or less than, like sort of, they would treat her like they treat Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, but nobody really does that. Everybody like looks up to her. They think she's awesome. And yet, so she is developing this crisis on her own as opposed to like peer pressure.
Yeah.
Of trying to figure out, who am I? Ship of Theseus, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's what I think is the most powerful thing, is that I am deciding to go on this philosophical path instead of having racism or prejudice
and
force it upon me.
Everybody else is cybernetically enhanced, like most people are. Her one partner her mullet is a weirdo because he's not.
Right. He's
and
the
I do
freak.
think in a dumber movie, then he would be like, whatever, robot.
And they
but
bring
even he.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, even he's just like, nah, you're great. We're all working on the same team.
Is Batu just the eyes?
No,
And
he's
other stuff.
Yeah, he's like super strong, and he's very much enhanced.
But the Motoko is 100%.
Yes.
Okay, here's what Motoko is. She is a person who has been modified so much that she's basically a human's personality in a robot body. And that's what's good about that's what makes the Puppet Master her double, because the Puppet Master is a computer program that eventually became human,
The yin
essentially.
and to the yang.
And so, yeah, they kind of like grow towards each other. And it's when she's like talking, that scene that where they're talking in the boat, and suddenly it goes into this weird like zoom in on her, real close up, and the city looks a little odd behind her, and her hair starts blowing in the breeze. She's saying like, I can only change myself so much, and I can feel that I'm bumping against these things inhibiting me, and I don't want to be inhibited. I want to expand beyond the parameters that are set out for me. And that moment is the moment where the Puppet Master like hears her and realizes, this is my perfect person. This is who I have to find. She's the only one who can understand exactly what I'm going through. And that's when he talks through her voice, and tells her basically, you're going from being a child to being an adult now, because now you can finally see what the next phase of your individual, but then also our sort of collective evolution will be. That like, you're going to move past this way of being into some other new way of being.
Sort of like Samuel L. Jackson finding Bruce Willis in Unbreakable, of like, you are my equal but exact opposite, and we're meant to be together.
Yeah,
you're very strong. I'm very breakable.
You are unbreakable. I am whatever the opposite of that is. But yeah, like that is a genre thing of like, we have to go find my perfect enemy / person, the person I have to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah, the person that complements me in basically every way, and then that will allow us to form some new entity. It's kind of her, but kind of not her. And that's like a very trippy idea too, that like sci-fi tackles from different angles. And I like the way this one does, of like, she says like, but if you do this, if we join, how do I know that I'll be the same? And he's like, no, you won't be the same. That's the thing. Like,
he's like, but and his argument, just like it's an evolution of his argument where like DNA is just memory. So how can I not be a person? It's like, well, you're always growing and changing. So he's trying to say all humans are, but it is very much like, bitch, you already were weird. You weren't the same. Yeah. So what is this going to be? Like, come on, let's do this.
That, and I think part of the argument too is
he did it much nicer.
Evolution's going to happen for some people. For some species, it takes thousands of years. We can be on the precipice. Like, we can do it right now. And it was hard for me to wrap my head around, because she's clearly the good guy, and he's clearly she. Like, it's a woman's body with a man's voice, is clearly the bad guy. But what he is offering is so enticing that she's just like, right, let's do it. And is that just to quell her questions? Is that just to be like, well, I'll have new questions, but at least I won't have all these fucking old identity questions that I've been dealing with for years now?
I think that's part of it, but it's also like saying he's obviously the bad guy is in that very like, if this was a traditional story, that's who the bad guy is. But the whole time he's the bad guy because that's who Sector 6 has said is the bad guy. And we're told he's doing these things, but he's actually Frankenstein's monster and just wants to fucking live. And Frankenstein is a control freak and is trying to get after him. The government is the bad guy.
He is kind of viciously indifferent towards human life, though. Like, I do think but I think it's maybe kind of what you're saying, though, right? Though, Mike, there's like he's neither like good nor bad necessarily. He's just a form of life yearning like to experience. Like, he wants to be part of it. He feels like, and we keep saying he because it's got a masculine voice, but the program wants to be like part of actual life, and he doesn't see real life as being on the computer. Which, my apologies to some of my computer friends who do see life being on a computer. To quote our president, it's all computer. But he wants to be out in the muck and the mire, and he wants to be changing and evolving it in the meat space.
Where they go to world dominance, I'm assuming. Like, this is when they go to become the single greatest entity.
Next, the world. Everybody shut up. You guys have been real smart, so we're going to take a little break and go shopping. Gentlemen, it feels like it's been a minute since we've done this. We're going on a little shopping spree. We are going to run through the world of Ghost in the Shell and take everything we can get our grubby little hands on for 4 rounds and determine who wins and got the best load. Ryan?
Yeah.
Starting with you.
Oh, Mike, this is such a slammy D. I know that there is a lot of ways to kill people, but I actually don't like doing that. So I'm going to get 1,000 times more stuff done with typing hands.
Yes. The fingers that become more fingers so that you can do more keyboarding.
And like those fingers become more fingers and those fingers become more fingers. And this movie will have somebody's mouth not even moving for 10 minutes. And you just look at their face because they're, talking through the internet. And then this movie will have scenes where this motherfucker's fingers come out and he types like a maniac.
At first I was like, you guys, look, that means he is bad. But they're all used to it. That wasn't the tip off that he was bad like I thought it was supposed to be.
That's what's cool about this, though, because like you see so many modifications where it's like, wow, she can jump up a building in like 3 bounds. Wow, like they're basically bulletproof. And then it's just like, this guy's good at computer. His fingers get to be more fingers and he does a bunch of typing.
Greg, what is your first?
My dream is to have something like her invisible camo suit. Not so that I can go peek at people.
Yeah, okay.
Not so that
Porky's.
I can do
Sure.
spying or anything like that.
Where's the nearest locker room?
Isn't it everybody's dream to know that they are definitely unobserved? That nobody is looking at them, that they don't have to worry if they've got too much cat hair on their clothing or if they've got something in their teeth. I would just love to have this camo suit. I would wear it right up until I got in to the doorway of my class. Then I would take it off. My students have to see me, right? But then as soon as I'm done with class, put it right back on.
The rules do obviously state, they don't like so much in this movie goes unsaid, but is shown enough times. You're show
naked,
up,
bud.
Again, naked.
Yeah.
Okay, I think if you're a hot lady robot, then you're basically naked because of the conventions of the form. But I think for me, it would look like cargo shorts, very much opaque, so that you could not see what's going on.
I'll
Are you
give you
changing the
that
science of this movie?
Yeah, it really does, but all out except to let you know all the clothes you're wearing is flesh colored. So you have flesh colored cargo shorts.
Okay,
on,
I'll
a
be
flesh-colored
naked. I'll wear
t-shirt.
the naked camo suit. I'll just put my cargos in my backpack.
Which is awesome when class starts, and you're like, "Hold on, everyone."
I'm gonna have to change
look
the
at me.
plan. I'm gonna have to go use the teacher's restroom. Obviously, go in the stall, fully disrobe as I always do every time I'm in there.
Do you know what I'd be so worried about this? It's not how many locker rooms I would look at. It's how much shit talking I would hear
Yeah.
because people don't know I'm
A
in the
lot.
room yet.
But honestly,
It'd be a lot.
honestly, Ryan, that you're Ryan. Behind my back, people are just like, that guy's a big sweetie. So
Cool.
I don't think it's
What's
gonna
that
be-
like?
That's what no camouflage Greg thinks.
No camouflage Greg is probably the worst Greg action figure.
it's just me.
This is just a dude with cargo pants on.
It says in really big letters, like with an exclamation point, doesn't include camo. You'll always know where
see
this
him.
guy is. Hi.
Just always has a speech bubble that says hi right next to his face.
Mom, Aunt Rachel got me an in-action figure. I don't know what to do with this.
I think he's got depression.
We've got the camera gone. We've got the typing hands gone. Of course, those were two. So I want mech eyes. I don't even know what Batu can fully do with his mech eyes, but they look sick as shit, and I bet they can see infrared and do cool things.
Maybe nauseous. Like
Just looking at him.
Just I could feel while watching it like that cold, sharp metal on my skin around my
Yeah.
eyes. Like I hated when he was on screen.
That combo of like flesh and metal that they do in this is very disturbing.
Well, yeah, because it's like puckered around it.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, this was surgery.
And you can see his
Well,
crow's
that's what I
eyes
got.
forming around them.
Yeah.
Hated it.
Ryan, back to you.
All right, Mike. Now it's time to destroy some things. I'm taking the spider tank.
Damn you.
Yeah, I think that I can get to work in it and not worry about traffic.
Are you concerned at all that one Peter Parker is always going to be trying to fight it and call you Smythe
No, because he's gonna
as
think
the
I'm
controller of the spider tank?
Penny Parker, not Smythe. He's gonna think that.
Are you sure that this is much more of a Alistair Smythe kind of situation than a Penny Parker situation?
Maybe.
Okay,
but
listeners, go to our sister show, the Superhero Show, where you hear us talk about this stuff a lot more.
that's like our dictionary that explains what we're talking about. No, I think that if Peter Parker knocks on the tank, I will open it up, or he probably rips open the top, ripping his arms
Rips
off
his
in the
own
process.
arms off.
And then I'm like, "What's up, buddy?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were cool. Do you want to hang out?" And I'll be like, "Hell yeah!" And then we will go to Subway. We will get two different
fresh.
sandwiches, but switch half the sandwiches with each other. Because
Oh,
sometimes
that's
you want like half
friendship.
a meatball, half a Italian.
It's called a 6-inch switch them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that I get that every day because I hang out with Mike, who's half a meatball, half an Italian.
Meatballs are Italians. What am I? Identity. Greg?
Shit, you're still writing poetry?
Okay. Part of what I like about this movie and a lot of anime actually is that it's not just about one person. I mean, it is about her like individual journey or whatever, but it's always so much about the team. And they got a great team here. And if you're going to have a great team, the rules are you got to have a great battle van.
Yeah.
And they've got like the technology version of the battle van, but like just the mobile unit where they're like always driving around the city. It's just so cool. Like the mobile like command center that they got going there.
Microchip's van with Frank Castle.
Yep.
The Ninja
The
Turtle
turtle
toy
van,
van.
for sure. Yeah.
That shoots out pizzas? Is that what that van did?
No, that's a different toy. It drops bombs out the back.
The battle van had a turret that shot out the side, right? And that was so cool.
And I think instead of pizza, it shot bullets.
If you can have that, why not at this point live in an apartment? Like, can't you build yourself a better thing than living in the sewers where the turds go?
They love the smell of shit.
Dude.
Do you think
Yeah,
they
they're
put bandanas
freaks.
on those poops and call them the turtles?
All right, so Greg's got battle van. Ryan's got. Oh, this is the. Nobody told me this was the fucking a vehicle round. So I guess I'm gonna go with the helicopter that has extra arms like fly out of it. They don't linger on it, but the sniper helicopter has just extra shit. And so when they need to run it, like folds into itself. Like, oh, nobody look at this cool other shit I'm doing.
Oh man, I want somebody so bad to have a party and be like, "Oh, did anybody call Mike, Ryan, and Greg?" Then it cuts to us and our 3 different vehicles going to the party.
Here's what I don't
Talking to
understand
each
about-
other like Power Rangers.
The helicopters weird me out. When they stop, they put out their wings, and then when they fly really fast away, they put their wings back. No, that's when you should have the wings out. A helicopter already can hover, and then if you want to go fast, then I could see shooting out the wings. But what? Anyway, your helicopter's great, Mike. I love it.
Slept on the garbage truck though. Could have had that, and you took a stupid helicopter.
That's true. The garbage truck is incredibly. What's the opposite of bulletproof, though? So I don't know if I want that. All right, Greg. No, wait, Ryan. That's the order we're going in.
I am so nervous about owning the tank that I should also draft the penetrator. Such a baller name for a bazooka that Batu fires directly into the tank to stop it. And I don't want to use this. I just don't want you guys to have it. I want to make that clear.
If you have the
Sure.
tank and the penetrator.
race.
Yeah. I can lock that up, bury it underground, and we'll be fine.
This dude's got
yeah,
rock
that's what you'll be
and
doing.
paper. Right?
Greg, what is your response to the penetrator?
Okay, well, I guess it's the weapon round. So I'm going to go with I'm a man of peace, but I'm also a man of business.
Briefcase.
Briefcase Uzi.
That was so fucking sick.
They go, the cops are here. And when I hear the cops are here, I throw my drugs on the ground and I run the opposite direction. What these guys do is they pull Uzis out of their briefcases, but they don't just like have them in the briefcases. It's like the briefcases convert into Uzis, and they're very cool. It's one of the first moments in the movie where you're like, oh, I think I'm really enjoying this.
I wanted the 6-shooter, but now in the weapon round, it seems real dumb.
Mataver.
I love my
trusty
Mataver.
Mataver.
I love it so much.
I like how they're like, you're on the team because you're going to give us a fresh perspective. And he's like, okay, cool. Here's my revolver. And they're like, stop. No. You can't have a revolver. You have to have the same gun we all have. Why am I here
Shut up,
then?
Tagusa.
If you're going to make fun of my Mataver.
I will say that the amount of times he says Mataver,
Yeah, dude.
it feels like this movie was
Brought to you by
it
Mataver.
was
Brought to you by
sponsored by
Mataver.
Mataver.
I think that is a real
it's
life
good even in the
revolver.
future.
Who knows?
Here, even so, not a weapon in the traditional sense, but what I want is internet telepathy, which
Yeah.
the team seems to have with you guys. So I will weaponize it against you, as by
good.
just thinking all this dumb stuff I text you.
It's gonna be
Beaming
awesome for
goatsy into our head.
podcasting, where you just think your thoughts into our head, and the listeners have no idea what you said.
But if I think it loud enough, you have to say it.
The telepathy thing is another one of the things that the movie demonstrates obviously what it is, but nobody ever goes, oh, good thing we got this telepathy, huh? They
Yeah.
just use it in front of the viewer,
Yeah.
and then you have to figure out, oh, they're thinking at each other. Oh, I guess because it's the internet.
It makes more sense here than eventually in the fucking Green Arrow TV show. They all started just talking, and at no point were there earpieces in their ears. So,
To be honest, my first thought was similar to Mike's thought about the invisible fight in the water. Of like, now we don't have to animate mouths.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
awesome.
yeah. All right, last round. Ryan.
Yes. I think that I am going to have to take, of course, an old abandoned building, because that's where shit goes down. And like tonight, a rave, tomorrow, a shootout.
Yeah. There seems to be like, again, the movie doesn't explain, but there seems to be like an abandoned part of the city.
Old
That
Town.
was so,
Old
that
Town.
was so spooky.
There's Korean.
Sometimes there's like
there's
German.
Spanish Harlem, Old Town.
Old Town. Greg, what is your answer to Old Town abandoned building?
Okay, I don't know if this is answers to the building, but it's something I've needed to have my whole life. After they like do the maintenance on the major, and she's floated through some tubes nakedly, then when she comes out, they like blow dry her, and it reminds me of in the Jetsons when they would get ready, they would like go on the conveyor belt and they'd get showered, and then they would get dried off, and that like full body blow drying instead of having to use a towel would just seem so luxurious and nice. Just blast me with some dry air.
Full body blow dry. All right, my last is in that abandoned building. It definitely used to be something cool like a natural history museum because there's sick ass walls that are just like dinosaur fossils in the walls, and I want that.
Hell yeah.
I love this is the first thing I was like shopping spree, I'm getting that. Hey Mike, learn from your past.
Yes.
Get that last. You do not need to run for the fossils.
And it's the perfect setting for that conversation because it's all about evolution and you know becoming the next thing and everything.
They put some thought into this. And now we're going to go round by round, and I will tell you who won each round and gets that point. Greg, in the first round, Ryan got typing hands. You got thermo camo, and I got mech eyes. We're giving that to thermo.
Nice.
Camo.
Iconic.
Next
right?
round, iconic. Come on. Ryan got the spider tank. You got the battle van, and I got the sniper copter. That's got to go to the battle tank. No, the spider tank. Sorry.
Dang. I was like, you combined one of the adjectives with one of the nouns.
I know. That's why I said sorry. That was confusing. Next round, Ryan got the penetrator. You got briefcase Uzi, and I got telepathy. We're in it just for sheer coolness factor. Briefcase Uzi.
Yeah.
And then finally, Ryan got an abandoned building. You got the full body blow dry, FBBD. And I got Dino Fossil Walls. It's going to have to go to Dino Fossil Walls. I'm going to let myself
the original
win
that
that one. And that is how you shopping spree. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more Ghost in the Shell. Taste buds, the Puppet Master argues that life is defined by change and evolution. What's Ghost in the Shell ultimately saying about what it means to be alive?
And
I think we kind of touched on this last.
But I mean, I think that it is evolution, right? Like evolve or die.
I mean, I think also it is that as humans, we want things strongly to stay the same. Like we want to reach a perfect moment and we want to live in that moment forever. But that we can't have that. We are not allowed to eschew change. Like it's not just evolve or die. It's like you have to keep moving through time. And so you can't ever really get comfortable. You have to keep living through time, and that means changing.
I mean, I would love for you to point to the time in human history where it did happen, where everybody was like, let's just stay like this for 100 years. But I think that...
Well, everybody says it a lot. But
the biggest issue is that in the movie then and in our lives now, we don't want it to be the way that it's going. We don't necessarily... Like, the movie doesn't have anybody. Even their 100% human partner is not like, I hate how the world's working.
Yeah.
Nobody's complaining about it. It's all just going this way. Now, today, 2025, people are complaining about it. But, like, I don't know what we're going to do, bro. You know, like, we're on this path.
Yeah, I mean...
No, you can just revert back 50 years.
Clearly. Grab a, what's that tool that you use to put toothpaste back in the tube? Grab that tool and just jam it all back in.
Just shove that right back in there. And the Puppet Master, like, it very clearly sees destruction as part of the life force. Like, I think that the part of what the movie's saying is that our impulse, even to want to stay put or to stay as the same person, that like there's something unnatural in that, and it will not ever be able to win out. And at the same time, this is when that guy Fukuyama is writing The End of History, which is basically arguing that because of liberalism, that like basically people had like, he didn't put it exactly this way, but the people had stagnated. His message has been lost a little bit. What he was arguing in that is, what are people going to do with the peace that liberalism has created? Because from that peace is probably going to come a big like unrest that will arrive out of that because like there is something sort of like innately human. It's, to quote The Matrix, when Mr. Anderson, or rather the Hugo Weaving, he says
he's Mr. Anderson, right? He says
he's Mr. Anderson.
He says, when we made the first Matrix, we made it nice for you. It was like paradise, and you wouldn't accept it. And that's the problem, is that we need the struggle. And if we don't have that exterior struggle, we will generate it, because what we really want is to be constantly fighting against something.
It reminds me of how dumb we all felt in like 2008, where we were like, a black man as president?
This is the end. We did it.
Well, like, are we gonna win now? And thinking that the pendulum swung all the way over to here, and we all went together and like held the pendulum there. No, we can't. And when it swings back the other way, it's gonna be bad.
Ooh. And we're in that right now.
The whole philosophy of the movie, though, I really, really appreciated. Days later, right? I was pretty confounded while watching it, but days later, how it just presented all of this stuff as, guys, I'm not like trying to edge humans a certain way, or showing you the faults of humans. I'm simply presenting how humans work, even though our main characters aren't human at all. And that's just something that I'm not used to.
Because that's what's so great about all sci-fi, but I think it's great specifically about Cyberpunk, which is that this technology is not creating problems for humans. It is exacerbating problems for humans. It is bringing to like the fore all of our fundamental philosophical issues. Technology like races us right to the breaking point. Like she says at one point, if humanity can conceive of something, it will create it. Mm-hmm. And it's like the second we have an idea, it's almost like it already exists because we just start chasing it down.
I have a question about that, though, and I think I've asked this to you guys before, who are much more, enveloped in sci-fi stories. Could sci-fi authors chill the fuck out and stop creating ideas? Because I feel like that's what we just go to is like, what were sci-fi authors writing about 30 years ago?
Yeah.
It's like they're creating the ideas that we have no choice but to go towards.
It's like that tweet, which is like the famous sci-fi book, don't invent the torment nexus. We have invented the torment nexus from the hit sci-fi book, Don't Invent the Torment Nexus.
That sound, of course, means speed round.
That's sci.
And I think it's just evolving this conversation. Is this movie straight atheist, or is it a little more complicated?
I think it's like agnostic, but I think it's like existentially agnostic, as in like we're not going to know, so we're just here. But I do think that it finds like a sort of spiritual beauty in humanity and connection and knowledge and evolution. I think that that's more than just good things on a mundane level, but I don't think that this believes in like capital G God.
No, and I do appreciate, as an atheist myself, that like it was sort of giving definition to the soul of like memories moving from point A to point B, with the exception of one weird part, which we can get into. But I think that it was like coming into this thinking that there is no soul as a viewer, and having the movie sort of back that up for me, made humans seem ridiculous. Like, you guys are hanging on to this stupid thing, whereas tech isn't going to. And I was like, well, then bring on the tech. And then I feel like the tank that I own, absolutely destroying the tree of life, big part of that.
And see, a lot of Cyberpunk takes this idea in a slightly different direction, which is, okay, well then if we're just information, can we preserve ourselves forever? And then that becomes its own type of hell. And that becomes like almost like an observation about what heaven would really be like for our conscious minds to understand. Like, if you imagine persisting forever, it's hard to imagine that not being a nightmare, even if it's like in the nicest situation possible. 1 billion years of existence, that's too much.
But it's every religion's dream.
I know, and that's the paradox. When I became like an atheist, it wasn't because I was like, oh, I don't believe anymore. It's because I realized that the ideas of heaven and hell were completely the same to me. That there was no such thing as a billion years at Disneyland and it being fun. It's like that would be torment. That would be. So basically what I'm saying is I invented the good place.
But Greg, is hell is a billion years at Disneyland, but you can't eat, but heaven is a billion years at Disneyland, but you're feeding each other. I don't remember that dumb parable.
Something like that, Mike. Yeah. Well, heaven is a billion years at Disneyland. Hell is a billion years at Knott's Berry Farm. Eat my butt, Knott's Berry Farm. Oh, you are a third tier.
Can you get the jam?
They should.
Can you get the jam?
They should have kept it as just a jam place because their jam is the jam.
You don't like Ghost Rider? Motoko scripts before fighting. Is that just gratuitous, or the movie trying to say anything?
Yes, both.
It is gratuitous, and it's saying.
I mean, I do think that like she has a certain amount of innocence, a certain amount of purity, a certain amount of like born
sexy yesterday. We call it.
Yeah, but to say that it's those things and it's not exploitative. I mean, like, what did Roger Ebert say? She's got a nice figure or something.
But they go out of their way to show us that, like, it's not just that she doesn't have a vagina. She looks like that angel from Dogma, but also her boobs do not move in a boob way. Like,
And
they are just there for show.
I'm not sure that because we don't see that she has external genitalia that she doesn't, because that's a Japanese, like, they don't ever show that. So, like, in all anime, women tend to have bare breasts, and then, like, they kind of have a Barbie doll.
Otherwise, they'd have to blur it.
Otherwise, they have to blur it. Yeah, because, like, Japan, they'll show hardcore pornography, and the only thing they won't show is the genitals.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they'll show weird scenarios. And shit,
I know what's going on there, sir, director. Did you guys?
No, you think?
Did you guys think that Batu was bummed about this? Like, did you guys think that Batu definitely has a thing for Motoko?
I think.
Oh, I thought it was more parental.
Really?
You know, it's complicated. I think sometimes as a man that interfaces a lot with a very attractive woman, sometimes you're not always quite, like, you esteem her and you like her a lot, and then also maybe there is also, like, a little bit of affection in there. I think there's a jumble in there for him, but primarily I think he, like, respects her and they have a working relationship, and that's why he, like, turns away, because he's like, this does weird me out a little bit, but it's not too big a deal.
Is this movie hopeful about humankind's future, or is it resigned to the inevitable?
I think that, like, what's going to happen is going to happen. So I guess the inevitable.
I think it kind of sees struggle as not the worst thing, and that death is kind of a part of the regenerative cycle. And I'm not totally comfortable with that outlook, because, like, I think in a way the movie kind of, like, Puppet Master kills a lot of people and, like, hurts them in a lot of bad ways, and it's kind of like, I have to, because that's what I'm doing. And so I'm not super comfortable with that, but I don't think it sees the human outlook as bleak. I think it sees it as one that is going to go through tremendous upheaval over and over and over again, and that's just part of a process that is kind of neither good nor bad, but just, like,
almost the opposite of the Terminator, where it's very clear good versus bad.
It's it feels more like action versus inaction, and that we can't be inaction and we can't be action, so we have to be some sort of area where those two things intersect and contain each other, at the same time or something. Balance.
We know this movie inspired so much science fiction that came after, but did it inspire you to seek out more of the world of Ghost in the Shell?
I will speak for me and Greg. No. Sorry, Greg.
Speaking just for myself, yes. I got into the comic because of this, and then I saw the sequel, Ghost in the Shell 2: Innocence, and then I've watched a little bit of the TV shows, but they're very much TV shows, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, except that it's like they're episodic, and it doesn't quite have that same tight feeling that this does. And there's certainly, maybe I do mean this to be a little bit derogatory, there's a little bit of that lack of profundity. I mean, I feel like there's so much in this movie that feels like profound, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm really experiencing something. And a TV show, except for Severance, can't do that to you.
This podcast is not called TV of the
no
Year.
TV show has ever been profound.
I watched a couple of clips, and it really does feel like the same characters in a show that you would watch when you got home from school.
Yeah.
And it was on at like 4 p.m. on KCAL 9.
It's so weird tonally how different it is.
That sounds awesome.
That, to me...
That's what I want.
Honestly, to me, that is more tonally consistent with the original comic book. This movie and its direct sequel are the things that are actually aberrations from the entire series. They're the only, like, very serious entries in it, from what I can tell anyway.
But don't you love that when somebody finds something surface level and turns it into, like, their entire thesis of humanity, throws it on top of it?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's the way to adapt.
If you're gonna make a movie and it's about a comic book that everybody's already read, why not just, like, go do the Hail Mary thing and be like, no, I want to make a profound, touching piece of art.
So what is the movie or video game that makes Cyberpunk cool?
I don't think there is one, Mike.
You honestly, when it came out, it was very bad. Cyberpunk 2077, but that game has gotten very good. They just kept working on it for like 5 years, and they finally made it good. Go check out that, or you could check out the Neuromancer books, which I have recommended every season, so I don't need to go into it again.
Yeah, can't hardly wait. You should probably check out Neuromancer. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Have you heard of Neuromancer?
To be fair, Greg has recommended Ninja Turtles more than any of us as well. Is that part of Cyberpunk's whole thing? Is that like, no, we're going to release, but then we're going to fix it as it goes on because that's so Cyberpunk.
Yeah, updates, hot patches.
This movie sprints, but then, as we've said, is not afraid to drag its heels. How does the pacing work for you?
For me, honestly, the more I watch it, the more I'm into it. That's sort of like, because I think it's a movie so much about action and inaction, and so it needs a balance of slow, sort of like contemplative shots where everything kind of stops for a little bit, because that's one half of the equation of what it's talking about.
Yeah, it was a rough watch.
All right, you're walking down a hallway and you see little girl Motoko 2.0 sitting in that chair. How quickly would you burn her and the entire building to the ground?
This was in a movie with like things where like metal is pressed into the skin around the eye. This was the part of the movie that I had to look away because I scared him. I was scared.
Yeah, they're
scared him.
When it cuts to her as the little girl, the movie definitely sits on like, what is this situation and what's she going through, and is she just stuck in here? And there's like, I would say it's not very long. There's probably 45 seconds where, as the viewer, you were like crawling up the walls because you were like, I don't want to know what's going on here. And then it's all okay. But for the
fine.
It's basically fine. But for a moment there, you're just like, whoa, what's going on here?
Props to Batu though. Like maybe I crossed the line in his whole wanting to fuck Motoko, but he walks in and that little girl is like, I am Motoko 2.0, and he's like, cool man, what are we gonna do?
Yeah,
he, like opens a bag of Torino. He's like,
let's go get some crooks.
Like, he's just the best partner.
Yeah, that guy rules. I think it might be Little Girl Motoko, but it could be blending parts of the movie. But she says, what's true for the group is true for the individual. It's simple. If you over-specialize, you breed weakness. It's slow death. How does that jive in our current world of very over-specialized jobs? Are we all slowly dying,
well,
guys?
It does remind me of that whole restaurant thing of the more things you have on your menu, the worse your food's going to be. Yeah. That's over-specialized.
No Pangea.
I mean, I think it is part of...
Take me home tonight for life.
I think it's part of this system of thinking that's like, 300 years ago, everybody like made their own one product and then sold that to people, and they felt connected to it. Yeah, like I make barrels, so I'm Bradley Cooper. Hey, but now if you have any sort of manufacturing job, it's like you put one rivet in one hole, and that's all you do repeatedly, and then they ship you that product somewhere else, and someone else does something else with it.
But if
Ball Corporation. Is that? Oh, I guess this is the opposite. But yeah, so there's the people who they just make the mason jar, and then somebody else just makes that weird little part of the lid, and then somebody else makes the outer part of the lid. Why is the lid in two parts?
But see, that's the thing now is if you don't over specialize, if you can only make the jar and somebody else makes the lid and somebody else makes the lid part too, that job is going to be automatized. Like that's going to be tech.
It's weird because people are over-specialized, but corporations do everything. Because going to some smart guy just talked about Ball Corporation. They started off mason jars. They also make giant missiles for our fucking country. And they started off as a mason jar. What?
No, that's you look at like who makes your Q-tips, and they also make ballistic missiles. Yeah.
I do have to say, though, like I do feel like the current political climate is we are really questioning expertise quite a bit. And I think specialization is another name for expertise. And I think we're running up against like the limits of this viewpoint, because I really do think there are experts in their fields and that we should let their specialization shine through. Sure.
Yeah.
It's one thing. It's one thing to like bring in some fresh perspectives on something, but that doesn't mean that you have to like undo years and years of like established understood expertise.
But the national reaction to I'm an expert in this is like, oh, are you smart guy? Well, I watched a YouTube video.
Yeah, everybody thinks that they could walk into any situation and they could just make common sense choices. No, everything is so complex and you don't understand the complexity. So then you imagine that you could just wave your hand and figure something out. All the easy solutions have been found. You have to be specialized to know what the new solutions we need are. You can't just walk in and go, what if you just pour bleach into the bloodstream? Dog, we all know that bleach kills this disease. You don't think somebody said, what if we put it in the blood? Because it's fucking bleach, you stupid moron. Like, so you can't do that. We already have experts who know that stuff.
Did I say that?
That was your famous let's put bleach into people's lungs speech.
How we tried bleaching
I've
it?
watched Ghost in the Shell, so I can talk to any ghost expert or shell expert, and I will tell them what's up.
Yeah. It's hard not to notice the music in this movie. They're clearly going for it, but are the songs a little too over the top?
The songs?
Yeah, like the
music, the score.
I don't know what it is. It reminds me almost of like No Theater, where someone would like sing what's going on as someone acts it on stage, but like instead of like the man's voice, it's like a choir of kids or something. And I have to say,
oh, that slaps.
It is a lot.
Could they do Creep by Radiohead?
A lot of very effective.
Slow it down.
The music in this is a lot. It's the height of too muchery, but I think I'm there for it. I think it really adds to it.
I 100% agree. Every time I needed to be woken up while watching this movie, the score did it.
Yeah, this music rules. If you guys, I was going to remove so many points if you said the opposite. That is all the time we have for speed round. There's other questions on here, but we're just not going to get to talking about the dog or Scarlett Johansson or the Owl City song Fireflies, and you're gonna or what crushes that one guy in the car chase. We don't have time, and we're moving on to awards when we come back. It is award season. Let's get right into it, and this one might be hard, but it's 90s slang, Ryan.
Oh shit. Okay, I think, Mike, this has to be something that we were all saying back then, and if we were to say this now, then everybody would look at us and be like, oh, what are you from the 90s? And it is, the net is vast and infinite.
Hell yeah, it is.
Just such a fucking catchphrase of that time.
I have it tattooed because I got that tattoo in the 90s. It's in a barbed wire shape around my arm.
It was also from the film Barbed Wire, we should say.
Greg?
I'm just going to go with ghost, a word that they use over and over again in this and don't fully define. And I think that makes it sort of very interesting because I think it means the sum total of your memories and not really your soul, but your consciousness. But they never say exactly what it means, but they all seem to know what it means. And you just have to sort of like understand what it means over the course of the movie.
It's a frighteningly great title. I didn't know what it meant. I thought like there was a ghost in a sheet and he was in a seashell before I saw it. But having watched it, it's if your soul and your memories or whatever is the ghost, and then the shell is in her cybernetic body, but also your flesh-ridden body.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's just a fucking shell, bro.
Yeah.
That's just a shell.
Mine is just all the DNA talk. We love talking about DNA in the 90s.
Oh my God.
DNA this,
Dino
DNA that, Dino DNA. But we're going to give that to the net is vast and infinite. Your musical moment, Greg.
I'm going to go with the intro credit music, where we're like watching her be, I guess, maintained. Really, at first I thought it was assembled, but she's like going through the maintenance process, and that's the first time we like experience the music, including like the heavy like drum, like kind of like drops in it, and then it's also got the clicking of like the Matrix style numbers that are going up and down and everything. I like. If you're not feeling it at the end of this intro, this is not the movie for you. But I was like, I think I'm getting blown away by this.
It's almost like 90% percussion.
Yeah.
This song, and it's just sparse drums at first, and then just builds and builds. And you're just like, yes, yes, yes.
I mean, like the whole thing is Job. This is mine as well, and the whole thing Job is a tone setter.
Yeah,
and it does that so well. It lets you know what movie you're about to enter without you knowing it, which is so important, right? You don't want it like written out for you, but it's also in a weird way the moviest part of this movie. Like this movie, there's so many aspects of this movie that aren't like any, at least American film at all.
Yeah, they kind of like eschew the rules of storytelling in film, yeah.
But in this one part, they're like, no, let's make this like it's fucking Lawrence of Arabia or Terminator, where we're just going to have these big opening credits and let's do it Hollywood in just this one part.
And we're watching our hero be built or like be rebuilt. And she's like both, like at this point, she's like a little baby, basically. Like we see her in this fetal position and everything, but we've just also seen her as such a badass. And like it really does a good job of illustrating both sides of her.
That is mine as well, so that's clearly winning. Everybody gets points. The cringiest moment, Ryan.
I mean, it has to be fucking Batu's eyes in his skull. Like, I could not take watching it. It was awful.
Greg.
I thought we were on the same page with this one because I thought it was. We just talked about it a second ago, but it is that like smash cut to her as the little girl, and first we see like her face through a mirror as the little girl. Which
dark hallway, camera going down,
and like you're just like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? It is a horror.
It
movie
switched to
moment.
a Conjuring.
Yeah, it is
moment.
like so scary, and the movie plays very heavily with like dolls are scary. Anything in a human likeness is scary, and it feels like the other while reminding us of ourselves or whatever.
So many mannequins in the movie that are not like cool to look
at. Mine is her body ripping apart while she tries to get in that tank. Hey, it's a closed door. Just stop.
Yeah.
Just don't do that. It looks so, and it's one of those cringes. It wants us to cringe, but it was so.
But like. So admirable, right? Like she is dedicated to opening this tank.
She's embracing destruction, and if you clearly want to like embrace life, you have to embrace destruction.
And she's trying to open metal, but also that's so metal what she's doing.
First, she just gets really buff. I like that second where it's like, no, she's gonna do it, and then it's like, oh, nope, she's not. She's not. She's not. Oh,
nope. The muscles are like, let's do this. Wait, hold on.
That one goes to M3 Gin Motoko, Greg's. Let's go to pound for pound performance, Greg.
Okay, so I hope this isn't against the rules, but I'm going to go with the original Japanese version. If you listen to the American dub, you're like, well, who could deliver these lines effectively? Like, obviously, she's chewing on them because nobody would know how to say this. Atsuko Tanaka knows how to say it. Everything rolls off her tongue and is so much more conversational and just like, yeah, these are the things I'm thinking, and as I'm thinking them, I'm saying them to you instead of this was handed to me on a card, and now I'm going to read it for the first time ever into this microphone.
Right, guy?
Yeah, in the dub, it's like everybody has a penetrator pointed to their head. Like you read this right now. I am going to go with somebody who we have not talked about, and yet he just charmed the living pants off of me. So I have Michael Sorich in the dub. I don't know who played him in the sub, but it's not even about the voice performance. I love the animation, too. It's Ishikawa, who is a guy in some little sub somewhere, like submarine, just giving information. And he's clearly been in there for so long. That room stinks up a storm. Yeah. But he's like, I have the information for you. And it's not just giving him details, but it's like, I don't know, man. I think this company might be bad.
Yeah.
I love he's a different guy in the van.
Yeah,
going
he's
back
in a separate vehicle.
Right, and just like, and they go to him, I think he's got 1 or 2 scenes maybe, but I just love his nonchalant, like, world's gonna burn. But here's the answer to the questions you have.
Yeah, we did not talk about that guy enough. And that's such a good, like, this world is vast. It's clear he's gone on other adventures with them. We're not going to fucking stop and explain who this guy is. Shut up.
But, like, they got away they got away from the whole, help me out here, Mike, like the Oracle, the person in the chair for every superhero team.
Right.
It wasn't that, like, tropey. He had a whole world to his own.
Yeah, he was, like, doing a different set of research.
He's on his own adventures. They're interrupting. Mine is Akio Atsuka, who plays Batu, a.k.a. Robo Eyes, in the original sound. I think in this world to have somebody who can ground it as much as he does, and very humanize this stuff and
not humanize, not humanize,
metal eyes. All right, we'll be right back.
Let's take a call.
You both got points, but we're gonna give it to the guy in the sub for this one, just because we didn't get to talk about him at all.
Do you know why Batu's so important too? Like we talked about him a little bit, but also we as American audiences and dudes need that 90s superhero. That action star that's there. Like he's
got the hair.
Yeah, he's got the hair. He's got the build. He looks like anybody who would have played in this live. God forbid we talk about a live action version of this, but like that character helps us through this action movie so much.
Our last award is the director's signature moment, Ryan.
It's a rough one for me, but I have to go with the city montage for a couple of reasons. I know I talk shit on it, but for it to be this long is clearly a decision. And although a decision that I wasn't down for when I was watching it, in hindsight, its importance of taking a beat with the world, and it's not a place setting, it's not like a shot that you would do before we go into a building. You show the outside of the building. This is like we are seeing this world through this person's eyes, and it. Now I can't say the word humanize because show's gonna erupt in chaos. But like, what a strange sort of gorgeous thing to just have in the middle of this movie, where information is pumped at you at a nonstop rate. We're gonna also do this.
I have the same moment. Honestly,
hey guys, it's the quiet montage, and this is the montage while they're hunting the nabbed puppet master's body, right? And then it's just like, let's take a beat. What if we get way quiet? A normal movie would get super loud.
It like starts raining. There's like instead of like the kids singing, there's like a real 80s, early 90s like guitar-ish like over the city as like night falls and it begins to rain. It's so amazing, and then I also use it as his signature because. That is what I feel like he really added to the equation that was already here.
That's not in the comic books.
Yeah, he's the guy that created like the kind of tone that this really owes so much to. The comic is good, but the movie is profound, and I think it's because he builds up the tone with stuff like this.
All right. Now, recommendation time, folks. Greg.
Okay,
let's talk about Neuromancer.
I'm not going to do it.
If Greg recommends Can't Hardly Wait, I'm going to freak out.
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to instead recommend a book. I love cyberpunk literature, and that's why I normally would say Neuromancer here, but instead I'm going to pick one that fewer people know. Walter John Williams's Hardwired. It is a small cyberpunk novella, and it's about people who, like, the United States has like broken up into a bunch of little small territories, and it's about couriers. I don't know why so much of cyberpunk is about couriers, like carrying messages from place to place, and they deliver goods in these like Panzer tanks that they have. They're like these hover tanks, and it's called Hardwired because you hardwire yourself into the tank to drive it. And so it's got all these interesting action scenes. It's very cool. And then at the same time, it's about how all the rich people moved up into orbital space stations, and now they consider everybody on Earth dirt boys and dirt girls. And it's about how like capitalism, when taken to the extremes that sci-fi allows us to imagine, is like beyond nightmare fuel. That it's just like it takes all of our worst impulses and multiplies them by 1 billion. And Hardwire goes so many places in such a short time. It is a pulpy, good, fun read, and I can't recommend it highly enough.
And I mean, just the term novella makes me so much.
Yeah,
more
right. Doesn't that
likely
get the
to
hair
read it.
standing up on end? Yeah.
Ooh, 70 pages.
Yeah, like when you hear a movie is 90 minutes. That's
Let's fucking go.
Ryan, what is your rack?
Like, I don't like to think of myself as somebody who has like a genre or personal, preferences. I like what's good. I like cinema, baby. It's just what I'm into. But then maybe that's what recommendations aren't about. Maybe you have to like sort of tell people who you are. And who I am is the Lee Winnell movie Upgrade.
Oh, hell yeah. This is getting a hell yeah from Greg.
with Logan Marshall Green, Don't Call Me Tom Hardy. I am Ryan Atwood's brother.
Mm-hmm.
I think
he looks just like Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I think those are all of his names. But here's a guy who it's also RoboCop would probably work in this situation. But his upgrade is to his body. He becomes half cyborg. I thought the definition of cyborg was still it's like half human, half.
There's some human in there. So she's a cyborg because there's some human in there. Yeah, I think you just have to have
gray matter.
If you have a human brain and a robo body, or if you're like half robot, half human, I think those are both cyborgs.
But I'm not saying this is better than Ghost in the Shell. I'm saying that they would make an incredible double feature.
It's fun. It's a lot of that. I can't control my fingers. I can't control my toes. Like he's doing like crazy kicks and stuff, and then looking at his feet, like, how am I doing this?
If you watch a movie with a scene where somebody beats the shit out of bad guys, love it. If while they're beating the shit out of the bad guys, their face is like, what?
Oh, yeah,
then
dude.
I am all in.
That's really the only part of Venom I like, is watching Tom Hardy be like, I'm sorry that he's doing this, but there's nothing I can do.
The Logan Marshall Green of our generation.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Tom Hardy saw Upgrade and went, I could make more money doing this.
There's also a Kimbo, I think, with Daniel Radcliffe.
Uh-huh.
It's the same thing. They put an exoskeleton onto him that makes him do karate even though he doesn't want to.
And as of this weekend, Novocaine with our boy Jack Quaid is coming out, where he just can't feel pain and looks like he kicks the shit out of a lot of people.
I love it.
The Dream. I have a lot of dumber Cyberpunk recommendations. Do you want to hack the planet? It's hackers. Do you want to have Batman Beyond in Cyberpunk? Dark Angel, underrated. James Cameron, too expensive to last more than 2 seasons. Loved it. But I was realizing it was during this show is the questions of identity. It's a little more tucked away in there. There's a serialized novel at the end of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books.
Dungeon Carl?
It's a hard word to say. And because they're in like a living video game, but then the serialized novel at the end of each, you get the little chapters. It's about the bad guys they're fighting and what their worlds are like. And some of them are slowly realizing that they are, not that they're the baddies, but that they don't know what they are. And so it's about, what if you focused on that garbage guy? And he's like, wait, what is this picture? What are my memories?
Yeah.
And so that's these goblins and gnolls slowly realizing that somebody is fucking with them and putting them in the game as the toadstools. And it's super interesting.
I think that's ultimately what I was wanting while I watched it, is Kelly Reichardt's version of the garbage guy's life.
Yeah.
And what that would be like.
It feels like almost like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Right.
Like, yeah, what is it like to be like a secondary character in this?
So now is the time that I have to tell you who won. Greg, you got 69 points.
Hey.
Nice.
I hope I got 420.
Nice.
Ryan, you got 65 points. Greg is my best friend for the
I can tell you now, Ryan. I can now reveal to you that I had to win this one.
I sort of figured that.
I didn't want to say it before I knew whether I was going to or not, because I'm not brave like that. But I had to win this one.
I mean, like, and you got cocky too, because at one point you were like, "Fuck Mike." He's
I
a
did.
fat bitch.
Yeah, I don't usually do that, but I did for about 5 minutes just berate Mike. So that was.
It was weird. It felt weird, but I guess I have to handle that for the next week as my best friend. How do we think Ghost in the Shell is going to do in the bracket?
I think that I'm trying to think of awards that it might win, movies that it might win. I don't think that like it has the movie structure that maybe we're looking for in a winner.
Yeah,
I think that there's a lot of movies that's burned it in the past.
I think its chances improved as we spoke about it, but I don't think they improved enough to do much more than secure like best violence, or something like that. If we had best philosophy, I think it would win that. But I will say what it has in common with the movies that do very well on our show. It stays with you. You think about it a lot, and you kind of carry it around with you. I just kind of agree with Ryan that it is missing some fundamental things that I think in this case really do apply. So I think that it's I don't know. I'm enthusiastic about it, but I don't think it has the legs to get very far, I guess.
I wonder if our come and see spot that we give every year, we thought it might be Lahane, but it actually might be this of like, oh, this is just such different storytelling.
Yeah.
Right.
From a non-American place that, I think that like it will be much respected and yet.
Yeah, I think we're giving this movie like a B+ or an A-, and that's great on its own. But in terms of competing with other movies, we've already got like 5 A+ movies this year.
Yeah.
We could say this though: if hey, Ghost in the Shell, if you go up against Mars Attacks, you're in the second round, baby.
Yeah,
like
that's a slam AD. That's a slam AD for sure.
Every movie's just crossing their
Yeah, dude, that's what you want to
hoping
get.
that's who they go up against. Well, that is our Ghost in the Shell episode. Thank you both so much. Thank you, dear listener. Coming up this season, we have The Birdcage, we have Independence Day, and we have the best movie of 1996. Till then,